Charlie Chester, you done messed up. You messed up so bad. What's going on, everybody? Uh, just want to share something with you all real quick because it's very striking. So, the last few days when the Lord and I have been talking with each other, He's been going over deception with me. Deception, deception, how Satan's deceived the whole world, that he's the God of this world, and he has blinded the unbelievers to see the truth. So with that being said, let's get into this story that came out because there's no coincidence with the time frame, with God telling me these things and this story that came out about 4 or 5 days ago. So the man I just told you about, he's a director for CNN. Now, there was a undercover reporter who tricked him into believing he was some kind of reporter for Tinder. But again, this guy was undercover, and the man I just told you about, the CNN director, fully admitted in an interview that CNN is basically solely responsible for deceiving all of America about Trump's personality, Trump's policies, who Trump is as a person, and you get the whole idea. I don't even have to get into too many details for you to know where this is going. So, listen, Donald Trump, he ran for presidency about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. He was president from 2016 to 2020 and definitely should have got a second term. Now, I am a independent voter, meaning I'm neither Republican or Democrat. I'm right in the middle. So I don't idolize Trump. I don't look to him for advice or anything like that. It's just between him and Joe Biden, between him and Hillary Clinton. Definitely would have picked him out of the three of them. But anyway, just so we can grasp the whole idea here, okay? For anybody who believes the Democratic Party does not have any kind of agenda behind it, that there's no evil or twisted mission behind it, just really hear me out on this. Judge for yourself, because everything I'm going to present to you, you really can't argue against it because it's all facts. So, the CNN director admitted that he and CNN are solely responsible for duping most of the country, for deceiving most of the country, right? So, most Republicans, like Donald Trump himself, Ted Cruz, many other Republican figures, have been telling you and me for years upon years that the mainstream media is corrupt, that they falsify everything that they put out there, and all these stories that they headline, there's literally no solid base for any of their points to stand on. But most people will believe it anyway. They don't take the time to look it up themselves and get their information straight. So when people do that, what's going to happen? You're inevitably going to believe anything that's put out there when it lines up with your opinion. An opinion isn't a fact. It's nothing more than a thought and feelings. Opinions are not facts. But again, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, all of these Republican figures have been telling you for years that you've been duped, that everything they put out there about Donald Trump is a lie. Now, with that being said, why is it that before Donald Trump ran for president, everybody loved the guy? Everybody loved him. You either loved him or you didn't know much about him other than that he was a rich and wealthy man on a TV show. Other than that, nobody had an issue with him because he was helping people get record deals. He was helping musical artists get their message across, get their music out to the public, and those artists were very much appreciative of Donald Trump's efforts. He even helped fly people to hospitals in his own private helicopters when they needed medical emergencies. Again, why did everybody either love him or knew nothing about him until he ran for president? Why? Because Donald Trump is nothing about facts. Now, I don't necessarily like his personality. I do think he's a very arrogant man. The way he presents things to people, there's another way you could go about it. I'm not a fan of how he does it, but I can't discredit the man when it comes to putting out factual information. It is what it is. He's a truthful man. And CNN for several years now has caused you and many other people in this country to believe that he's a racist, a homophobe, that he hates women, does this and does that, when he's literally the complete opposite of what everybody has made him out to be. Why is it now that he's not in office, nobody talks about him? I mean, like, it's just look at the way people behave. Look at how society functions. Nobody in this country, for the most part, knew anything or had any kind of interest in politics until people believed that Donald Trump was all these negative things when he's the complete opposite. Now that he's out of office, nobody talks about him again anymore. Because nobody, okay, not everybody, but for the most part, more often than not, most people have little to no knowledge about politics, policies, law and order, or how any kind of societal functions work. They just jumped on the bandwagon, believed everything that this news network put out there, and believed it without doing any kind of research on their own. Now, to go back to my point about, for anybody who doesn't think the Democratic Party has a wicked or evil agenda, Satan deceives the whole world. Satan works through people to deceive people. Now, this CNN director literally admitted in an interview that him and CNN are solely responsible for deceiving most of the nation, okay? But for years, nobody would admit that, because if you have any kind of brains, you're not going to admit that your mission was to deceive people, that your mission was to do anything to get a specific person out of office so that your agenda could be pushed all the more. You're not going to admit that. But now that he's out of office, they slipped up, admitted in an interview what their intentions were, and deceived most of you. It is what it is. Sorry, had a phone call. Most of you have been deceived. Most of you have been duped and believed all this stuff about a man that was not anywhere near being true. And if you don't think that you're vulnerable to be tricked, if you don't think you're vulnerable to be deceived, check yourself. Because this story, this headline that just came out 4 or 5 days ago, is a prime example of how powerful Satan is and how easily he can manipulate you. Most of the world, most of America has been manipulated. And if you don't believe me, you're manipulated. You have been manipulated. Look it up. Go to these sources for yourself to get your facts straight. And if you have been someone who's against Donald Trump, check yourself. Really look into the things that you've been bought into believing, and get your information straight for yourself. Look to Jesus. Don't look to yourself. Don't look to man. Look to God. Take care.